This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Global investments in renewable energy aren't bearing fruit and the world should focus on securing reliable supplies of fossil fuels, U.S. Energy and Interior Secretaries said this week as they worked on convincing Europe to buy more U.S. oil and gas. The U.S. has become Europe's top oil and gas supplier on the back of the U.S. shale boom, and its companies are seeking to boost the share as the European Union moves to fully cut off remaining Russian energy imports. The message from U.S. officials at an energy conference in Athens this week highlights the shift in U.S. policy under the Trump administration, which has rolled back environmental regulations and touted oil and gas domination as a central driver for the U.S. economy and international influence.
Crude prices recovered from a midday dip on Friday on hopes Hungary can use Russian crude oil as U.S. President Donald Trump met Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban at the White House. Brent crude futures settled at $63.63 a barrel, up 25 cents or 0.39%. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude finished at $59.75 a barrel, up 32 cents, or 0.54%. Both benchmarks are poised to register weekly declines of around 2% as leading global producers raise output.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The Environmental Protection Agency said on Friday it approved 14 requests from small refineries for full or partial exemptions to the nation's biofuel blending mandates, drawing criticism from a top U.S. biofuel trade group. The decisions effectively clear the remainder of the agency's huge backlog of such requests that had built up under former President Joe Biden's administration. The EPA had approved 140 petitions in part or in full earlier this year, and denied just 28, leaving just a handful from previous years remaining under review. Under the renewable fuel standard, refiners are required to blend billions of gallons of ethanol and other biofuels into the nation's fuel pool each year. But small refiners can seek exemptions if they show the obligations would cause them significant financial hardship.
Japan, the world's number 2 LNG importer, plans to buy liquefied natural gas for emergency reserves on a monthly basis from January, instead of buying only during peak demand periods, to guard against supply shocks, two industry ministry sources said. The reinforcement of the country's strategic buffer LNG program, run by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, will ensure at least one LNG cargo, about 70,000 metric tons, is secured each month to mitigate supply risks. For the year, that means Japan will buy at least 12 cargoes, or 840,000 tons of LNG, for its emergency reserve, up from about 210,000 tons in each of the past 2 years. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. China's copper imports dropped in October, official data showed on Friday, as consumers shied away from restocking due to high prices for the metal used in power and construction. Copper imports slid to 438,000 metric tons in October from 485,000 tons a month earlier, a 9.7% drop, according to data from the General Administration of Customs. Unwrought copper and copper product imports into China, the world's largest consumer, include anodes, refined metal, alloys and semi-finished copper products.
Gold prices rose on Friday as the dollar softened and uncertainty around the U.S. government shutdown added to safe haven demand, while Wall Street indexes were set for sharp weekly declines. Spot gold was up 0.7% at $4,005.21 per ounce, as of 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 2015 GMT. U.S. gold futures for December delivery gained 0.5% to settle at $4,009.80 per ounce. Tech-heavy stock markets remained poised for their biggest weekly fall in 7 months on Friday, as investors fretted over the sustainability of a rally in artificial intelligence stocks.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
World food commodity prices fell for a second consecutive month in October, driven largely by ample global supplies, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization said on Friday. The FAO Food Price Index, which tracks a basket of globally traded food commodities, averaged 126.4 points in October, down from a revised 128.5 in September. The index was down slightly compared to its October 2024 level and stood 21.1% below its March 2022 peak. It had climbed to a two-year peak in July before stabilizing in August and dropping in September thanks largely to sugar price falls.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.